quickness, I'ma make a decision. I'm on a mission. You tripping, thinking we missing. I'm shooting up with precision. Red beam on the barrel to give myself some assistance. My brother come through like sniper, he knock you off from a distance. Big foe with no foe, I'm balling just like a piston. We get the... Damn, heard it's another man down in my city, Brody Chopper got a red dot and some titties, I ain't with the drama. I'm just trying to touch a milli, I'm a addy dropper. Cause on my mama we get busy. Another man down in my city, Brody Chopper got a red dot and some titties, I ain't with the drama. I'm just trying to touch a milli, I'm a addy dropper. Cause on my mama we get busy. Plug pull up with the pack and I ain't even bust it down. Couple minutes on my phone, I promise I'm gon' get it gone. I stay solid, I get caught, I'm fighting till they sit me down. You get caught, you singing like a nigga in the studio. Brody sold the whip for 1,000 cause we just slid in it. I really make a house call, fuck if your kids in it. Been through some shit that's why my heart too froze. You ain't living what you rapping in a studio. You get your noodle blown, fucking with the opposition. My brother make incisions on anybody that's dissing. With the quickness, I'ma make a decision. I'm on a mission. You tripping, thinking we missing. I'm shooting up with precision. Red beam on the barrel to give myself some assistance. My brother come through like sniper, he knock you off from a distance. Big foe with no foe, I'm balling just like a piston. We get the... Damn, heard it's another man down in my city, Brody Chopper got a red dot and some titties, I ain't with the drama. I'm just trying to touch a milli, I'm a addy dropper. Cause on my mama we get busy. Another man down in my city, Brody Chopper got a red dot and some titties, I ain't with the drama. I'm just trying to touch a milli, I'm a addy dropper. Cause on my mama we get busy. Plug pull up with the pack and I ain't even bust it down. Couple minutes on my phone, I promise I'm gon' get it gone. I stay solid, I get caught, I'm fighting till they sit me down. You get caught, you singing like a nigga in the studio. Brody sold the whip for 1,000 cause we just slid in it. I really make a house call, fuck if your kids.
Basement of my house, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? I don't want it to flood, so after a couple of days I ended up going to get a generator and save the day with that, man. But it was just stressful. It was hot. It was just an inconvenience. Lost all of our food, everything. Washer and dryer went out. I mean, life, man. My car's making noise now, so it's like that's how life does it, man. It just hits you back to back to back, and it's like you can't even catch your breath, man. But one thing for sure, man, is I was born to survive, man. So we get it done one day at a time. But I hope everybody was smooth. I look at Facebook, you see people at the parks, the beaches, the pools. Everybody's having a good time, man, as you should, man. You know what I'm saying? Life is definitely to be enjoyed and not to be taken for granted. But today, man, we got an awesome guest. He's coming here to share. I've been trying to get him on here for a minute. Very talented brother. Proud of him and everything that he's got going on. I know he's got a lot to talk about, a lot to share. Very inspiring brother. And without any further ado, we got my man Gabriel Duran. Brother, what's up, man?
Oh, my bad.
My guy, man. Welcome to the El Nino podcast, bro. I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Excited to be here. Excited to talk.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Shit, one of the last times I seen you performing was at Hart Plaza.
Yeah,
Hart
auto
Plaza.
show, right?
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah. It was cold. It was cold as fuck that day. It was so cold. I was definitely going through it a bit. I remember I was there with my boy Suppy, and I was like, bro, I kept looking back like every 3-4 minutes. I was like, bro, it's fucking cold. Like I can't feel my hands. Like there was a few songs I wanted to play on guitar that day, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not gonna work. I'm frozen.
You're a hell of a performer, though. You pushed through that shit.
Thank you.
That's for sure.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's dope, man. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, man. Where you from, where you grew up, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so my name is Gabriel Duran. I'm an artist, producer, born and raised in Southwest Detroit, lived there my whole life. And yeah, I just really enjoy creating things, putting things out into the world, and bringing people together to appreciate the same things that we're all creating.
No doubt about it, man. What part of the neighborhood did you grow up in?
I grew up, first I was brought home to my grandma's house over on Porter Street in the neighborhood, right by Clark Park. And then I moved, my mom purchased a house a little bit further down Porter Street, closer to like the Ambassador Bridge, like Michigan Central.
Okay.
That area. So right there.
That's cool. Yeah. Right in the neighborhood, right in the heart of places, you know?
For real.
That's dope, man. So what was life like growing up for you, man? Do you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
The only child?
Yeah, only child. So life was pretty, I don't know, growing up was really quiet sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. I had a lot of time to just like sit there and be by myself. Besides like playing outside every day with like the homies on the block, you know, all of my neighbors, friends. There was definitely a lot of times where I wish I had siblings around, or wish that I lived a little bit closer to like some of my cousins. Thankfully, when I was over with, you know, my mom's house, the cousins were only like 2 blocks away from there. So that was cool. I got to grow up with my dad's side of the family being like 2 blocks away from my mom's house at that point.
So do you come from big families? Like I know a lot of people in the neighborhood come from big families, both on mother and father's side sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's family is definitely much larger than my mom's family. My mom's family, it's pretty much always just been like my mom, my grandmother, it was my grandfather, and then more recently, my uncle moved back to the U.S. with his family. So that's another three people, but pretty small. But then like, my dad's side of the family, like they're Puerto Rican. So it's big ass family. It's like, I got like 40 cousins, like 15,
I can relate.
15 tias, like 10 uncles, like all over Southwest too. So
yeah, that's dope, man. So what is your nationality? You're Puerto Rican?
Yeah, so my dad's side of the family, I'm Puerto Rican and Mexican. Okay. And my mother's side, I'm from Chile and Ireland.
Hey, that's a hell of a combination.
That's like the basic 4, I guess, or the simple 4, I like to say. Because then I get into it, I'm like, nah, but my grandpa's like Italian, like, you know, like Czechoslovakian too, like all over the place for real. Yeah. But those are the main ones for real, the ones that I feel the closest to, for sure, especially in my upbringing. And
that's dope, and it's important for you to be able to recognize and acknowledge all of them because, you know, that's your history. That's what you come from. That's what you're made up of. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, because some people may feel, you know, different about, you know, the cultures that they're made up of, you know what I mean? Or some of them may be ashamed of it or whatever it may be. Yeah. But, I mean, you come from some strong bloodlines of survivors, you know what I'm saying?
Strong ties to all cultures, for sure. I definitely know that I gravitate towards the Chilean ancestry just a little bit more. Like I'm actually a dual citizenship with, or I have my dual citizenship with Chile. But
okay, that's dope.
You know, I love my Puerto Rican grandma's food every holiday, you know, and in Mexican culture is such a beautiful country and yeah.
So you've been to Mexico?
Oh yeah, I've been to Mexico a few times.
That's dope.
Thankfully, I've been able to go a few times. Been to Mexico City, I think maybe 2 or 3 times now. San Ignacio once or twice because of my mom's friends' family. They got married down there, I believe. That's why we went down there.
Okay.
And
that's Durango, right? San Ignacio.
Low key, I think.
I want to say it is.
Maybe or Jalisco. So. I don't know.
It might be. Yeah, you're right.
They're showing that I'm not maybe as close to it. But then again, that's not where my family's from. My family, you know, they're from the FA. So like, I get off by just being able to like throw out the Mexico City shit. Like that's not hard to forget. You know, that one's easy. But yeah, Mexico is a beautiful country for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So what similarities or differences is like from Chile, from the country of Chile, their food, their culture? Is it more similar to like Peruvian, Mexican, or is it just its own?
Yeah, I think definitely there's a lot of differences between Chile, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. Probably more, Chile might have more similarities with Peru. I'm not super familiar with the Peruvian culture. I know that like we both share a love for pisco, which is like a wine, or it's like a grape liqueur, I believe. And certain foods might be similar too, but just different versions, right? But I would say between like Chile and Mexico, they're very different. The most simple thing being that like the language, the way that Spanish is spoken in the 2 countries, different dialects, and the food is definitely, I would say I probably prefer Mexican food. I'm not gonna lie, except with one exception. Like my favorite food in the world is empanadas from Chile. Like we have empanada de pino, which is like a ground beef, like it's cooked a certain way. It's like basically like for every pound of ground beef you have to have 2 pounds of onions. It's like mad cumin, black pepper, salt, and then they're oven baked empanadas. And that, man, my face lights up whenever I get to eat those.
I know, it's lit up right now.
Yeah, like when my mom makes them, or Whenever like my primas make them, it's like a moment for real. So
yeah. That's dope. That's dope, bro. You get to try everybody's food, you know? Yeah. So what was it like for you growing up in the neighborhood?
Oof.
Like, you know, I mean, you're 25, I'm 44. Experiences are different. You know, Southwest is a different Southwest than it was when I was growing up here. You know, I love where we're at today, you know, but, you know, I know a lot of times, like, the damage that my generation did, you know what I'm saying, kind of forced a lot of the mothers to have to restructure how they raise their kids in our community, you know, because when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, like, it was a, you know, gang infested, you know, community, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, eventually, you know, the feds ended up coming through and indicting everybody and cleared out the whole hood and, you know, left a lot of, you know, young people around with no leadership and left a lot of mothers to raise kids on their own. And, you know, a lot of that has, you know, affected, you know, the generation to come. You know, but I just love the direction and where we're at today. But it's like, what did you have to see, experience, and go through to get to where we're at today?
Yeah. I mean, growing up in Southwest is definitely such a complex experience, right? I think for both the generation, you know, before my own generation, and even I would say for the generation now, is they're experiencing something completely different than I experienced, you know, only in the last 20 years, really. Like, if I started around like 5, right? But I think first and foremost, like, it's such a beautiful experience to begin with, like, growing up in the neighborhood. You know, it's really is that melting pot. Like, we have people from everywhere, you know, people from everywhere. And then the moment that, you know, we all start to realize that we all come from like the same place, it just helps us like really grow together and get on with, you know, one another. Definitely those experiences intermixed with, you know, certain voids throughout, you know, all of our childhoods, right? Like, you're speaking on like your generation, maybe, you know, setting the tone for what would be our experience, you know, with lack of leadership, lack of fathers. Again, that's like one thing that like maybe we all like related to in moments that we didn't really realize. Like, a lot of us were growing up without fathers. I grew up without my father. And yeah, it's sad at moments, right? Because you feel like you're stripped away from certain things, but then you realize that like the moment you can speak to somebody else about it and they actually understand it, you know, because that's something you experience heavy. I think it's the easiest to understand your experience and growing up in your own community the moment that you take some time outside of it, because it's then you're having those conversations where things aren't clicking as easy as they might with somebody that's your neighbor or somebody who might have grown up in the same neighborhood, because you're like, you know, what about this or that, and they're just like, they're not getting it, right? But then the moment you come home and you talk to it, it's like, yeah, I remember that. I remember feeling that way. I remember experiencing that in my own, you know, on my own journey to adulthood, you know, growing up.
And I think it did have a huge impact on, you know, the generations to come, you know, the absence of men, you know, whether they were, you know, killed in the streets or went to prison. You know, some were drug addicts. Some of them were just Rolling Stones, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. House to house, some men just were running around just not taking care of their business or their responsibilities and having multiple kids with multiple women. And, you know, just for so many different reasons, you know what I'm saying, that there was absence. And then, you know, and then the men that are around you, you know what I'm saying, it's like, what are they actually teaching you? You know, what are you learning from them? And it's like, you know, as a boy, you know, trying to grow into being, you know, an adolescent and even an adult, it's like you need, you know, a positive male figure in your life to give you guidance. But not only that, as you're growing up, you're seeking an identity. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to find a connection, you know, and, you know, I wasn't raised with my father. I had a stepdad, and, you know, a couple of my mom's boyfriends were around, but mainly I had a lot of older cousins and uncles. Yeah. But, you know, everybody was in the streets, though, you know. All my older cousins, I looked up to them. They were all in gangs. They were all gang members. You know, a lot of my uncles, they, you know, say they sold drugs. Everybody was snorting coke and partying, and, you know, that was a lifestyle, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, I became a product of that. But, you know, I understand how vital it is though to have positive male figure, you know what I'm saying, for a boy, or even at adolescence, to have that type of guidance and, that type of structure, that man to teach you, certain things, you know what I mean? And, a lot of times, when you're a young adolescent and you're seeking a connection with male figures, a lot of time you get misguided, you know what I'm saying? And you get abused and misused and, you know what I'm saying, and all that type of stuff. And it kind of makes you resent it sometimes. I had some friends that they had a father, and every time he got off work, he came home and kicked everybody's ass in the house. Always yelling, screaming, slapping the mom around, kicking the kids' asses. And I'm like, damn, maybe my life ain't too bad without a dad, if that's what having a dad is about. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen it so many different ways, but, it's just, it is unfortunate,
But like you said, like, there's two things that you touched on that resonate heavily with me. Like I definitely, I'm grateful to have had my grandfather for the majority of my life. Fortunately, he passed away about 2 years ago now. But my grandfather was definitely that positive male role model in my life. Even in the years where he wasn't living in the United States, I always was able to admire him from afar, look up to being somebody like him, the way that he interacted with community, the way that he looked out for people in the community, the way that he just navigated his own relationships in life, with his friends and especially with his family. I've always grown up wanting to be like him and to be able to love like my grandfather. But also, there's that generational gap too, where it's very evident that my grandfather is so far removed from what I might be interested in, I never had a conversation about women with my grandfather, because it's just that was a disconnect there. It was not, he came from a different life experience growing up in Chile, and it's just not the same as growing up in Southwest and being you're attracted to somebody and you talk about it a certain way. So thankfully I had I like to say older brothers around, Damasio being definitely a huge playing a huge role in my life, especially in high school. That was my big brother for real. I wanted to just hang out with him all the time just because I thought he was so cool, the way that he dressed, the shoes that he bought, the music he listened to, huge role in my life. But another thing you mentioned too was the moment where a lot of women in the neighborhood were kind of forced to raise their children, right, because of the absence of these fathers. And I think that might even, and I'm trying to make sure that I say this the right way, but obviously everything is evolving constantly, right? So the world is constantly in evolution, and in many ways I think a moment there with so many women having to raise these kids in the neighborhood might be for their, it's in a weird, really twisted way. It's just women are gentler, they're more loving, they're tender, they're kind, they're passionate, they're empathetic.
They're
a lot of things that
unfortunately,
because of the circumstances growing up in the 80s and 90s, men weren't able to carry those characteristics in a healthy way because it's almost frowned upon.
Absolutely.
You're soft.
Yeah.
Why you feel that way? What you want
to
you want to communicate through something? You're bugging. A lot of those things are now learned qualities that people in my generation have because of our mothers, and that makes the neighborhood a gentler place, a more loving area. And you see it now, the generation now, they're so smart. There's the way that they speak, the way that they, the way that they look out for one another. Yeah, the way they look out for one another is
and that's
insane.
when we lacked, and that's when men were raised to be warriors. You know what I'm saying? We were,
product of the environment.
Raised to be strong.
They needed to do
even
that.
the mothers then, even the single mothers that were raised in our generation. You know what I'm saying? My mother, she used to make me go fight, you know what I'm saying? Make me go fight people because she thought that was the right thing to do, it's not always easy for a woman to try to raise a boy to be a man, so they just kind of, take what they were taught or what they seen. And I didn't know how to fight. I used to go get my ass kicked every time, and then come home and get my ass kicked some more because, I got my ass kicked, you know what I mean? So, it was just like that, man. But, it's all growing pains. It was all part of the process, things that you learn, growing up, you know, a lot of the male figures, like I said, man, that, you know, they teach you, you know, violence. Like that was about being macho, being a man, you know what I'm saying? Having control of your household, controlling your woman, controlling, you know, just having control over everything. Yeah, all that type of stuff. And that created a lot of trauma, man. Not only within ourselves, but, you know, even for the kids that had to witness that type of stuff, you know, and what it did to them, for those who weren't able to move past that or heal from that and end up repeating that same behavior, you know.
Shout out to single mothers, for real.
No, for real. But I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, I've seen men like I've never seen men before. Like, I got a few friends. Shout out to my man Julian Cuevas and all the good fathers out there, man, that are taking care of their business, because you know, I grew up and the majority of us didn't have dads, you know, and I see a lot of good men out there, bro, like spending quality time with their kids. Like, I mean, there's women now, they're leaving the dads and leaving the kids with the dads, you know what I'm saying? And the dads are, you know, the roles are reversed, you know. But you know, I'm happy though to see men stepping up and taking care of their business and taking care of their kids, you know. Yeah, for sure, man. But so how did you get into where you're at today, like music and instruments? Like, you named off a whole list of instruments, bro. You know what I'm saying?
That all goes back to my grandfather, for sure.
So was this your father's father, or was your mother's father?
My mother's father. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately, my father grew up without his father also.
Wow.
So I think relatively same age too. Like, I lost my father when I was like a month after my first birthday.
Are you serious?
My dad lost his father. I don't think. Yeah, maybe 2, the oldest.
Wow.
Bro. So, yeah.
That's crazy, man.
My mother's father, Ismael Duran, he's the reason why music is my life. Like I said, like longing for that role model in your life, right? My grandfather was not always in the United States. He was a touring musician himself. He's constantly on different tours while I was like growing up. So the only thing I really had all the time would be like my grandpa's cassettes, and like I had like a little cassette player, and I would just play my grandpa's cassette like all the time, like just to hear my grandpa's voice, just to have some proximity to him. I would go to bed every night and I played his album. I was just like, that's the thing. That was my ritual. Every night I'd play my grandpa's cassette to sleep. And going back to like just wanting to be like him, you know, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be able to express myself in the same way. So looking up to him was definitely the main force. But I'm not gonna lie, I know exactly what moment I was like, yo, that's the shit I want to do. And my grandpa, we would go to like Best Buy, and like they had like the box with like $5 DVDs, like $4 or $5 DVDs. One day we go there, he's just grabbing some like little speaker or something he wanted from Best Buy, and La Bamba was in the DVD tray thing. And he's like, have you seen this? And I was like, I don't know anything about Richie Valens, Grandpa. I have no idea what you're talking about right now. He's like, we're going to go home and watch this right now. And we watched La Bamba, the Richie Valens movie. And I was like, whoa.
Did you love it?
I was like, this is crazy. All those girls want to talk to him because he sings. I was like, that's what I want to do.
You want to be the Richie Valens?
I want to be Richie Valens. I want to be just like that. He was just like, that movie was so dope. Like the way that they just, you know, brought his whole story to film was sick. And it really hit home for me for real. After that, like I said, I was just like, I want to play guitar. And I started learning to play guitar at that point, because at that point I had been doing music with my grandfather, but I was just playing like the cajon, which is like a drum from Latin America, and it was all percussion based, like maracas and different small little instruments to just give some rhythm to my grandpa's set, because my grandpa played guitar and would sing the songs. So from like 7 years old to 10, that's all I would do for music, and I was cool with that until I saw La Bamba, and I was like, no, I want to play guitar for real now.
That's dope.
So I started learning to play guitar when I was 10. Had a best friend who we kind of pushed each other to learn at an accelerated rate, really, because I say this all the time. I feel like I don't practice guitar enough or as much as I should, And thankfully it's because I didn't put down the guitar for like the first 2-3 years. Like I slept with the guitar, literally.
Were you playing acoustic or?
Yeah, I had an electric guitar. I had an electric guitar,
okay.
and it was like the only thing that I cared about. Like I would go to school, do my homework, and then just play guitar for hours. Just the same like 4 or 5 songs.
How did you get used to the fingers, bro? That was one of the things, because I love playing acoustic guitar, but that shit killed my fingers.
And that's where, again, like we pushed ourselves to just do as much as we could whenever we did, which was every day, right? Because you're like 10, 11. Like I wasn't really interested in video games. I didn't watch TV. I just wanted to play guitar. So I went home, learned songs, just every song, and there your fingers become like, they start to get it feels normal at that point. Like you're kind of pushing through the pain, really, because it hurts like a bitch.
For sure.
That shit was not fun. I remember like tears, like it would bring you to tears sometimes, because like you really want to play this chord, and like you need to learn this chord, because if I can't learn this chord, then I can't play the song that I want to play. You know, so it's like you're frustrated, and frustration builds up, and then like you just break down, you know. But yeah, I didn't put down the guitar for like 2-3 years, literally. Not gonna lie, that was all I did from like 10 to 13. And around 13, you know, you start to change, you start to grow as a person, you know. You start to look at the world a little differently.
Absolutely.
You maybe feel like you need to express yourself in different ways, and like maybe you want to write about it, right? That's where I found myself.
My man.
I fell super hard for like somebody when I was like 13. I had like the biggest crush, and then it goes like super south. So like everybody, once something goes south, you just like, I want to let it all out. So I wrote my first song when I was like 13, 14. It's like a heartbreak song. It's terrible, and I honestly wish I could delete it from the internet forever, because I would, but I can't. Yeah, wrote my first song when I was 13,
what was
14.
it called?
I don't remember, and nobody should ever go look it up. For real. Like, you're good. You don't even need to do that.
Hell no.
You don't even
13 years old.
Yeah, 13. I think I recorded it when I was like 14, and we could leave it there forever. Like forever.
14
cool.
forever.
Yeah, 14, it's gone. Throw it away. But I did the talent show that year too, and I sang that song, and from there it was kind of like a rush too. That's, I think, probably the first time I fell in love with like the rush of performing, because like I said, I've been performing with my grandpa from like 7 years on, but never with like that much you know, emphasis on like you as an individual, and just like seeing how people reacted. Like I just liked that a lot, and you grow to like seek it at that point too, right? So I fell in love with performing that then also, and then after that it's really just like a lot more, like I said, like at the time a collective started meeting in the park on Sundays, a collective called the Rise Up, and that's a little bit more, that's around the time, where I started to become more familiar with like hip hop in the US, because I had grown up listening to hip hop like my whole life, but like I said, my family's from Chile, and my uncle is actually a pretty well-known MC out of Chile, Subverso, and I grew up listening to a lot of political rap, so a lot of like conscious, like social political rap from Latin America, Mexico, but not super familiar with like the hip hop that I was somewhat immersed around. Really, I felt like there were moments, like back to like the experience of growing up, there were definitely moments where I felt like was in a bubble, a cultural bubble, really, just because like my family is so Chilean, can be so Chilean at times, right? And not very even though like I get all of it from my dad's side of the family, but like again, with his absence, you know, I see my dad's family on holidays, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, my birthday, stuff like that, not always, you know, there. Whereas if I had probably spent way more time, would have been way more familiar with a lot of it. Because like obviously I'm familiar with sounds and songs, you know, from those times. Like you can't go down Werner, and especially in those years, you know, 2002 to like 2006, and not hear something playing on the radio, you know. But
did they listen to like did your grandfather ever listen to Motown or anything? Did he get up into that, like American music, or he stayed?
No, super. So like my influences from like my grandfather would be like Silvio Rodriguez, like a Cuban singer, Daniel Viglietti, who's a songwriter from Uruguay, and yeah, a lot more influence from Latin America, really.
Okay, that's dope.
But those are like, let's stand out too, like probably the ones that I listen to the most, I would say. But there's so many, and a lot of them being my grandfather's friends too. Marcelo Puente, my grandfather himself is as a songwriter, and like I said, my uncle and then all of my uncle's friends.
Did he teach you how to write music, or you just?
My grandpa would love to say that he had no patience to teach me anything. Like I remember asking him to teach me how to play guitar, and he straight up was like, "I don't have the patience." So thankfully, my grandpa was patient enough to run cultural centers where I could be instructed by an actual, guitar instructor. And obviously, you learn from just being around somebody too. Like I'm not at all trying to say like I didn't learn anything from my grandpa.
What exactly is a cultural center?
So, a cultural center, removed from like what we are as an entity, I would say is a space where somebody can become more familiar with the culture that they come from. Whether it be through song, dance, or art. Visual art. And my grandfather has always curated cultural spaces throughout the neighborhood, stemming back from like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and when he came back to finish the last few projects like 2010 and forth. But yeah, so I've always kind of also grown up in like cultural spaces where it's like we have guitar classes going on, there are piano classes going on, visual art classes, dance classes.
And I love it. I love it, and I tell people all the time, like, the first time I ever seen a taco truck was when I moved to East LA with my father. The first time I seen like elotes and paletas and the copa with frutas, like when I lived in Chicago. So like I was like, man, like why do we not have this stuff in Detroit? Because it wasn't here yet. And then I ended up going away for 17 years, and when I came back, I was like, oh shit, like they're selling paletas, elotes, they got taco trucks everywhere. Like it was really dope, and like, like I said, growing up in the 90s, like gangbanging was that was the lifestyle here in Southwest. That was our culture, that was our lifestyle, and that's just, how we lived. And so while I was in prison, I started meeting a lot more Latinos that were coming to the joint, you know what I'm saying? But they were from the neighborhood, and, a lot of them were speaking their language. A lot of them had a lot of, like, Cali swag with them, too. And I was like, are you guys from Cali or what's going on? And they're like, no, we're from Southwest, bro, you know what I'm saying? And, of course, a lot of, before I went to prison, like, there were, like, no sureños or nothing like that. And then, but over the years, I know that, gangs migrate, just like they came from Chicago. They come from Cali, Texas, everywhere else. And they brought the culture with them, the art, you know what I'm saying? Like, the only art you ever seen on the wall was people, graffiti, gang graffiti, you know what I'm saying? But, like, living in East LA, Chicago, like,
you see murals.
I used to know a lot of murals, bombers, that were just, like, killing it artistically. We didn't have that part of the culture in our community yet either. But coming home, it was like, damn, Detroit, like Southwest, we finally caught up to everybody else, coming home and seeing all the beautiful murals on the walls and, just like I said, just seeing us being active, and embracing our culture, to the fullest. It was very, inspiring,
Yeah, for me, I'm not gonna lie, it's crazy to think about Southwest without taco trucks. Like I can't even imagine. Like that's like that's a everyday thing if you really wanted to, right? There's so many different taco trucks to choose from, but yeah, I can't even fathom it being a blank canvas. And I'm sure at one point it was, but now it is good to see all of that. It's especially nice to see all of these families thriving as small business owners and now being large business owners. Like that's a great progression, and I hope that it only continues throughout the neighborhood.
And I love it because our people are walking in our own identity, you know what I'm saying? Like, Detroit culture is influenced by black culture 100%, you know what I'm saying? But that was one of the things that a lot of brothers, because I was like, damn, bro, like, where did you grow up at? And they would say certain parts of the neighborhood, and I'm like, well, you wasn't in this gang or that gang, you weren't a part of this. And they're like, no, bro, like, we wanted to do our own thing because they felt like all the gangs then identified to black culture, you know what I'm saying? Through music, through dressing, through everything, you know what I'm saying? And they kind of wanted to find the identity of who they were, a lot of them wanted to be like cholos and just embrace the whole Cali culture and Chicano culture, you know what I'm saying? And I thought it was dope, you know what I'm saying? Because You know, that is our true identity, you know, but that's what also puts us ahead of everybody else is the fact that Southwest is a melting pot of cultures and people from different places, and how we are able to socialize, you know what I'm saying, and build bridges, you know, that not other people can do.
Yeah, people aren't used to that, to being able to just mix around with so many different backgrounds.
Even when I lived in East LA, you know, in Michigan, bro, we're friendly as hell here. Hey, how you doing? Good to meet you. All that type of shit, you know. And you go to Cali, like, bro, the Mexicans, they were not fucking with me. You know what I'm saying? And there was only two races that went to my school. You was either Asian or you was Mexican. You know what I'm saying? There was no white people. There was no black people. It was just, and then out of the Asians and Mexicans, they didn't even talk to each other. You know, and me, I'm like, hey, how you doing? They're looking at me like, fuck is you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And then I'm like, all right, look, wave over here. And they're like, man, don't be waving at me. I'm like, God dang, you know?
Like, y'all are ruthless.
Get my ass back to Detroit. You know
what
I'm saying?
Say hello.
And they're like, oh, you talk black, you dress black. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I'm Mexican. I'm from Detroit, you know, whatever. It doesn't make me less Mexican, you know. I may not know Spanish as good as you, but, you know, But it was just like that. It was a different times, you know. And, you know, a lot of people, they talk about white people always being racist. Like, man, everybody's got some racism in them. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody, but I mean, like, every culture, every race, everybody got something to say, you know. And there was even a point where people were like, oh, Mexicans and Puerto Ricans hate each other. I'm like, no, they don't, bro. Like, you know, we just want to be identified as who we are. You know what I'm saying? But, I don't believe in that hate shit, bro.
No, not at all.
Especially not no self-hate, you know?
No, yeah. Can't hate both sides if you're both, right?
So what motivates your music, bro? Like, you got some dope music. It's you know, it's very unique, you know what I'm saying? It's a unique sound. And, you know, being Latino, you know, making that good vibe music. I love it.
For me, it's always been, I guess the method and the approach is always just trying to tie in as many parts of myself into the music. So obviously the content ends up being, you know, lived experiences or experiences, you know, that you're constantly surrounded by. But starting with just the music, like I make it a strong point to always bring in inspiration from the things I grew up listening to. So like touching back on like the songwriters from Latin America, like the way I play guitar, like I don't play a guitar the same way that somebody who grew up listening to, you know, banda or corrido music like their whole life. You know, I don't play guitar the way that somebody who plays guitar and listen to salsa and merengue their whole life would play guitar. I play guitar the way that I do because of all of the Latin folklore that I grew up listening to. And
what about Santana? Did you ever grow up listening to Santana?
Santana's like my huge, you know, one of my, I have two guitarists that I look up to. And obviously besides my grandpa, but the main two definitely Carlos Santana and Randy Rhoads. So,
okay.
Yeah, so Santana obviously a huge influence because of his identity alone too. You know, that's a Latin artist growing up that you can look up to and be like, you know, I resonate with who he is because I know that culture. And then Randy Rhoads was just sick as fuck, man. That guy was crazy. Like he was Ozzy Osbourne's guitar player. I'm gonna get the years wrong, but. And I don't want to, I was going to say when Ozzy Osbourne was making like crazy music, even though I'm sure he's made crazy music forever. But Randy Rhoads was sick. He was a classically trained guitarist who just would shred on guitar like nobody else for real. But yeah, a lot of Santana too growing up for sure. But always trying to just bring in like the influences that I had growing up and what I listened to, really what my mom and like my grandpa was listening to, really just the whole family too, I should say. My grandma also sings and plays guitar, so I grew up listening to her playing a lot of the music that she grew up with. And although it may not always translate into the music that I create now, just that presence of somebody always singing. You know, my grandma loved to sing around the campfire. So like we'd have campfires in the backyard like all the time just because she would love to just burn some, you know, wood whenever she would just be doing like yard work. So we'd sit around the campfire and make some s'mores, and my grandma would sing like folkloric music from her upbringing. So trying to bring all of these influences into what I also, like I said, heard around me, which growing up in Southwest, growing up in Detroit, early 2000s, like you're hearing like some of the best R&B music like ever made, some of the best, you know, like hits from like the hip hop genre, early on hits, right? But trying to mix all of that together has been the goal for the last few years. And I think we did a pretty good job on Wish You Well, capturing both a sound that is like somewhat relatively familiar because of the rhythm behind it, but then incorporating those sounds that a lot of people are probably not familiar with, coming from like the way that I play guitar, or the way that I even structure my melodies. My melodies are structured to mimic a lot of that music. So yeah, it's like a game, man. It's just like tying in pieces from like, you know, different moments in your life. And then, like I said, you the voice ends up being like whatever it was that I went through the year or the time when I was creating it, you know, or what was fresh on my mind. And that can be a plethora of things. Like that's a wide range, right? Heartbreak and love in general being the most common one. Did you grow up
at all listening to freestyle music?
Oh yeah, family? Oh yeah. Okay. So like honestly, I'm sure we're gonna get to the album and to talk about the album. But I want to drop a freestyle project for sure. Yeah. I want to drop like I have this approach.
That's dope.
That I'm like, the album is always gonna be the mixture of like my influences growing up and who I am and what I feel my sound should be and can be. But whenever we would drop an EP, just know that like we just wanted to make that shit for fun. Like the Lose Me Now EP, like I was listening to a lot of music that sounded like that, you know, like some very dance influences, a lot of like the EDM soundscape. And me and my boy Tebow, we were just like, yo, let's just make some of this. It was December, like it's cold as fuck outside, we're not about to do nothing, like we were roommates at the time, so we locked in like 1 week and just like knocked out the 4 songs, and like that was the EP. I want to do the same thing, but I want to try and make some freestyle music just for fun.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Freestyle music for sure growing up, like and that's heavily coming from like my dad's side of the family. My dad's side of the family and my godmother. Like I have vivid memories of my godmother picking me up to just, you know, either like go shopping with her or just spend the weekend at her house. And I knew she was almost at the crib because I could hear the freestyle music like down the street. Like I just hear the music just like blaring through her speakers, and then she'd like, I just run out the door. I'm like, yeah, okay, bye,
and it's crazy how other people are like this is love music, like this is club music, like, you know. And it was like, yeah, I know that was our music, you know.
That's something I talk about with my boy Tone all the time. Like we're just like, yo, they were bumping this in the club for real, and it's not like it's not what you would expect to hear in the club. It's like, yeah, it's interesting.
Like
it's so interesting,
but it's like the music's dope.
Yeah, the beat is always crazy, and then just like the song or whatever they're singing about is like super relatable. And then I think the key to freestyle music, if I'm being super honest, is that like they low key can't really sing like the best. Like it's not like the perfect voice, you know. Like it's not like, oh, this is pitch perfect. Like no, it's like
they used to have a high pitch.
They feel this. Like you just, you know, that somebody was just like making songs probably in the basement type shit, and like they were feeling what they were saying, and then they threw a beat over it, and then like mad reverb and a few little effects here and there, and it's like it's out of here. So yeah,
that's dope.
I want to do that. I want to just go and just like come up with some like super relatable, just very simple, you know, like you broke my heart and this is how I feel, like something like mad basic, and just over a freestyle beat.
Because it's like we need to get back to like love music, you know what I'm saying? Because so much of the music today is just a reflection of just violence and murder and drugs, and you know, just, you know, I just the other day I was on my way to work and I was listening to a Marvin Gaye, Al Green, one of them old school songs, and I was just like, man, you just don't hear music like this anymore, you know. Even in the R&B, like, you know, it's very sexual and all that, but like just good old man just singing to a woman, baby, I love you, you know what I'm saying, with all my heart, all my soul type, you know. And
man, I was listening to this song. I've been playing it a lot. I also do this thing where like I people will be like, what do you listen to? They'll ask me a lot, like, what do you like to listen to like now what I grew up listening to? And I tell them, to be honest, it's funny, and I know you're not gonna believe me when I say it, but like I don't really listen to music. Like I kind of like, it's hard to, I don't know. It's hard to not feel like I want to get super influenced by something after hearing it. But obviously I listen to music, right? Like I drive around listening to music. But the thing is, I'll find something and I will wear it out. Like I will listen to that song for a week straight. Like I'll have like 10 songs. Like I listen to 10 songs a week. And those are the 10 that I'm just like in deep study with. And a song that I'm pissed that I'm not going to remember the name. I left my phone like over there. But there's a song called Volverás. And it's just exactly what you're talking about. Like the whole song, he's just like, I did you wrong, but like I love you in these many ways, and like I need you to take me back. Like that transparency, and like that just like being super like what is it? Being super vulnerable. Like when like this generation doesn't really want to be vulnerable. Like it's not cool to like it's not cool to let you know that like my heart is broken because I'm not spending every night with you anymore.
And why do you think it's like that though? Like why do you think society reached that point? I mean I felt like I had started a youth program when I was in prison, and I just noticed there was a huge disconnect between the youth and adults. And a lot of the guys that I used to talk to, they were just like, my mom, my dad, they do drugs, they do heroin, they do crack, they buy crack off me, they buy drugs off me, my aunts, my uncles. So they felt like, those kind of adults that they were around, so they didn't really have respect for adults. You know what I'm saying? And, I just think that, that was really unfortunate because they didn't even want to hear what adults had to say. Now, I mean, it was different with me and them because I was able to build a bridge and show them that, I'm not what they're used to, as an adult, and as a male figure.
I think a lot of it nowadays stems from like the need to feel validated and be seen, really. I think like you spoke on like trauma even, and through trauma, you can have a lot of moments where you're pretty absent, right? Like you don't realize that time is passing around you, right? Years, days, hours, they go by much quicker when you're living through a traumatic experience or when you're trying to cope with life after a traumatic experience. So with that being said, it's like if a lot of our parents carry all of this trauma and we're growing up and like they're doing their best to raise us, they're providing with us. They give us a roof over our heads, food on the table, and as much love as they're able to give too. But we can't say that like sometimes we might not be still through all of that, we might still not feel seen by our parents, or we might not feel validated in the ways that we need that. And then you get to a point where it's like, okay, well, you go and watch TV, or you go and watch mainstream media, and a lot of us grew up consuming media because we were that first generation that had it at our fingertips, and it wasn't like filtered in the best of ways. So what do you see like when you go online? Like what's propelling people to the top? It's like money, drugs, chains, all that shit. So what do? You want to mimic it, right? And it's like, I need to get that. I need to be just like that in order to feel seen by the world, in order to feel validated by everybody else in society. I need to be just like that. And that's my guess on how it stems, that because there's like all of that comes with so many toxicities, and those toxicities are adapted by trying to live like that. Like you're gonna inherit all of that toxic energy by trying to just go after things that may not truly be you.
I think what it is a lot of people are feeding the flesh. Society, we eat with our eyes, and we're feeding the flesh, the exterior, what people look at, and a lot of people are harboring the true self, the true identity of who they are, just so, everybody is like going out of their way to be different, even to the point where they're embracing being weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like being weird. I want to be different. Like, that might not be who you're supposed to be, That,
or even like, and this is like my mom always talks about rabbit holes, and the older I get, the more I resonate with that phrase, because like you say that, right? Like everybody being in love with like the exterior and feeding off of that. It's like also everybody trying to like sell themselves too, like every single person is trying to sell something about themselves, and it's like what we fail to realize is like, when do you turn that off? If you're constantly trying to like promote yourself, if you're constantly trying to build yourself as a brand, it's like, then when do you have time to just be a person? Like when do you have time to just sit down and like, it's gonna sound crazy, but like when do you just sit down in the grass? Like when do you put your feet in water? When do you, I like to go on walks a lot, man. Like my thing is walks. Like outside of like therapy and regular forms of therapy, my best therapy is going on long walks. and I walk through the neighborhood. And I put my headphones on. I listen to those 10 songs. No, I listen to whatever I'm feeling. A lot of times when I go on the walks, I listen to like the early influences, right? So like a lot of the oldest stuff that I just remember growing up listening to. And I'll walk for like 2-3 hours, like every day. That's how I start my day. I get out of bed. I force myself on the walk right away because I know like as soon as my eyes open, I have to go put my shoes on and just walk. I'll go to bed wearing shorts and like something that I feel comfortable walking in throughout the neighborhood. And
does it enhance your senses? Like just walking, like if you were to just stand in the middle of Werner and close your eyes, you know, you can hear the traffic, you can smell the food, you can smell the bakery, you can hear kids, you can hear, you know, noises, you know what I'm saying? Like
definitely, I mean, like
tuning in, just really tuning in.
Yeah,
you know,
I think it enhances my
environment.
sense of self, without a doubt. My sense of self is heightened when I consistently go on these walks. But yeah, like you're way more aware, like walking around, like, and obviously like still like the neighborhood has changed, right? But it's still the neighborhood. Like, you know, like I'm not necessarily just walking down Verna the whole time. Like I go throughout my little pathway here, and like I'd be goofy to not be, you know, mindful of like the block that I'm on at that moment, right? But the sense of self is really the takeaway, I would say. Like, because after those walks, it's just refreshing. It's like everything that I may have gone to sleep overthinking, everything that I may have been struggling to work my way out of mentally is now gone. Like, it's now like, for me, I have to see things in motion around me. So like I'm going on these walks, and when I'm overthinking the things at night, right, I'm in a room. I'm in my room. I'm in one place. I'm in a house. I'm in 4 walls. I'm surrounded by 4 walls, and like I don't see. It's hard to see outside, literally, right, in that moment. Like you can't see further than those 4 walls, right? But when I'm on the walk, I'm thinking about it, and I'm just like, yeah, like you say, I hear the cars. I see the señora watering her flowers. You know, I walk past the taco truck. I'm at a red light. I see this person that I know. This person honks and waves at me, you know? That's grounding. Yeah. But also it's allowing me to just remember that, like, man, a lot of the most problematic shit is super temporary. And you can move past it the moment that you're able to see outside of the 4 walls that you're stuck in. So.
You know, a lot of people today have become very antisocial. Bro, you want to grab us a couple waters, please?
My bad.
Mind?
Sure.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. What the hell was I just saying? God dang, that quick. No, you good. Anyways, whatever. But it's just a different experience when you actually tuned in. Taking walks is great. You know what I'm saying? Mario, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you, homie.
Legal Aliens finest right there.
For real.
But yeah, it's just another feeling, you know what I'm saying, to be tuned in with your environment, you know what I'm saying, and just, you know, taking walks, it's good, it's healthy, but you get to know your community, you get to know, you know, your neighbors, your people, you know, the young, we get to see where the kids are at, the elders are at, you know, and all that type of stuff. You know, I just, you know, I don't know, I don't have all the answers. I just wish that, you know, with all the progress that we made, I'm so proud of the progress that we made in our community, but it's still like we have so many structural poverty. Like you go to suburbs, you don't see beat up streets and roads, and you know what I'm saying? And it's like, man, we got all these speed bumps in the neighborhood now. Yeah. And, you know, we got potholes, and you just see so many different parts of the neighborhood that are not, you know, that are just inhumane treatment. You know what I'm saying? And that's not, you know, it don't necessarily come from us. That was just the structure of the environment that we're placed in.
It's all intentional at times, too.
And it's like, you know, how do we fix that? Like, how can we correct that? Like, why do they have it nice over here, and why do we got to, you know, live like this over here, you know?
I definitely think we're on the right path for those things to come. Like touching back on just a lot of these small businesses, you know, that stemmed from like first floor home shit, you know, like, oh, this house sells birria on the weekends. That house has, that house is selling Caribbean food on the weekend. Those things now having brick and mortar locations in the neighborhood, right? So now these homes that started their small business now have property in the neighborhood where they're successful, right? And like hopefully we can replicate that and duplicate that more, instead of just allowing all of these entities from outside of the neighborhood to just come through, buy up property. Some of them sit on it, and then some of them place shit that has absolutely nothing to do with the community that they've bought this place in, right? So hopefully the small businesses thrive in order to make sure that we're the ones that are investing that money back into the neighborhood and keeping our dollar within, Southwest. So it's like when, the roads are bad, it's like the city's not coming through to make the roads better for all of the people that are about to move into the neighborhood. No, like we're at a point where like you got to come and make sure that these roads are good, because like that business is thriving, and like we deserve better, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the
because
neighborhood
my
is in a
car
beautiful
is
place.
making noises that I never heard before,
man.
And it's like, man, I had a nice car, it was nice and quiet, and just just working in the neighborhood, doing outreach work, doing everything that I do. You're either going over a hill, a bump, a hole. It's always something, and I'm like, man, like I think that with all the progression and all the growth and everything that we had to overcome to get to where we're at today, what I'm saying, I would like to see some structural growth and some structural change in our community. You know what I'm saying?
And I think, like I said, I think it's coming. We really got to make sure that we're the ones that own the majority of the neighborhood when that time comes.
But that comes with we got a lot of people who are financially illiterate, bro. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of people who don't understand how to save money or how to even think about a future or make plans or goals, because when you come from impoverished communities, bro, like I nobody raised me and taught me the value of education and graduating. Like I am like blown away by all the people who are just graduating left and right. You look on Facebook, everybody's graduating, and that is like such a a great feeling. And like when I was growing up, bro, like nobody was like really graduating or anything. You know what I'm saying? Like we were going to prison and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's just to see how it is now and how much has been accomplished and how much has changed in a positive direction, bro. I'm so admirable of it. I'm so happy for it, because we are civilized.
Yeah, I think Southwest is in a beautiful place, and it truly is only gonna get better for real.
How do you feel about so many Latino families living downriver now, like Lincoln Park, River Rouge, Ecorse?
I don't have I have no bad feeling towards it. It's just, in some ways I would say that it's sad because many of them have been displaced as a result of like gentrification, as a result of and people intending to like homogenize our neighborhood and make it all one of the same, which is like an influx of people with wealth, right? People with money coming in, buying places for 10 times what they might normally cost, but it's only because like now the city as a whole is in a better place, right? But also I think something that's really dope about the influx of Latinos downriver is like you said, Southwest kind of being that blank canvas, like it's accelerated there now. Like you go down river and there's mad mercaditos, like mad taco establishments, like all of it, right? And they've kind of like done that at a rate that is much faster than the way that it probably played out in the neighborhood now that I'm coming to learn that, but I get it. I think that's really the only thing I can say is like I get it, like shit in the neighborhood's not cheap anymore. Like I definitely would like feel hurt having to rent in the neighborhood right now. Like
I know
the rent prices in the neighborhood are stupid. It's
you could probably find something cheaper in River Rouge.
Like I got grandfathered into this apartment downtown. The year after the pandemic, I stayed there for about like a year and a half, and like that shit, I was paying $400 for an apartment that was like downtown. It made no sense. And like that was the only reason I went there, because like if I would have paid what like the people literally across the street were paying, $3,500 a month. Like I lucked the fuck out, man. Because like who has that bread?
Damn, bro, that's crazy. Again, it's like
these rabbit holes, because like I'll go and talk about who has the bread and like how messed up it is that like that's happening. But yeah, it's all Rocket Mortgage, it's all Quicken Loans, like. Fuck all that. Like I get it, because like then it's like then you're gonna have people that's like they provided job opportunities for like people in the neighborhood. Like it's cool, but it's like what's the job? Like the job is to go and fuck over people that can't pay their house on time. Terrible, you feel me? Like so. So what's the real result? But we could talk music.
Let's talk about your new album, bro.
Bet. Yeah.
Let's talk about the new album. Let's talk about Southwest Fest.
Hell yeah. Man.
When's the new album coming out? What's it called? What inspired you?
It's crazy to be able to say that the album comes out in 4 days now. Like that's something that for the last 2 years has just been like a an unknown, right? I've been telling people for the last few weeks now that the day's been approaching. It's a little surreal to think that it's finally dropping after such a long time. Just because, like I said, the last 2 years is like the first thing I would think about is like, when is this actually going to come out? Like, how are we going to put it out? How am I going to afford to put it out the way that I know it needs to be put out? You know, how am I going to find the time to make sure that I can put a plan into place to make sure that this music succeeds and it's not just like a drop? You know, it's not just like, oh, here's 14 songs and if you want to listen to them, listen to them. No, it's like, here's 14 songs and if you haven't heard them yet, you're missing out, you know?
That's dope.
But yeah, 4 days. We're 4 days away from the release of 23.
And what's the name of the album?
Yeah, 23.
23.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's written in Roman numerals. It's kind of the same way as like this tattoo here. But 23, in essence, for me, has been a number that's been quite prevalent throughout my life. My father lost his life when he was 23. My mother was born on the 23rd, and there are numerous moments throughout my life where the number 23 just kind of fell into my lap.
It's kind of like an angel number, right?
In some ways it feels like that, and there's been moments where it was very like weird and it felt, you know, like a little uncomfortable to be like, why is it that I quite literally, like the smallest of things, man, like I'll sit down in a random ass restaurant that I've never been to in my life, I look over and like the booth number is 23, and like when I say that I have numerous moments like that, like my whole upbringing. Me too. So it's, yeah, a little freaky. And then
717 is my
717.
I've seen it my whole
everywhere.
life.
It always follows you
everywhere.
Yeah.
License plates, anywhere. Like you said, I've always, but I never knew why. You know, I thought, am I crazy? Do other people see these numbers?
It's freaky.
When I came home, somebody was like, "Oh, that's an angel number. You should look it up." You know, and I was like, "Damn, that's a real thing." Like, wow, that's crazy. But
like I said, with my father losing his life at 23, and my mother being born on the 23rd, and then, you know, back to my grandpa, probably the most influential and honestly, besides my mom, the most important person in my life. I lost him when I was 23, and
we're in the year of 2023.
And then to finally get to the point where like the album is ready to come out and to drop 2023 is kind of cool. But the album as a whole is my 23rd year of life also. So everything that we talk about in the album are moments from being 23 in this world, you know. Okay. What was life like for me at 23? And that you hear it in many ways, because I lost my grandfather maybe, April to October, 6 months, right? So quite literally half a year of being 23 and then half a year of grieving my grandfather's death. It translates to the music. The music is quite literally that journey.
I went to prison when I was 23.
Word.
Got out when I was 40.
17 years. Yeah. That's a long time, though. Man.
Crazy.
But yeah, so the album 23 drops in 4 days, and yeah, it's crazy. I honestly, sometimes I'm not even sure how to really like.
Do you have any features on it, or is it just all you?
No. We have quite a few actually, which is, you know, Wish You Well. When we dropped Wish You Well, we had 2 features on it, and I think this right now we have 3. We have 3 features. We have Lucien Dam, who is an artist from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And we have Kemba, who's an MC, rapper from the Bronx in New York. And it's a full circle moment for myself, but my uncle is actually featured on the album too.
Oh,
on
that's
one of the
so
last
dope.
songs. So Suverso from Santiago, Chile, is on the 13th track on the album.
That's sweet, dog.
Yeah,
I'm
and
excited.
that was literally the finishing touch on the album. Kind of, I didn't get that verse until maybe 2 months ago. So yeah, it's finally done. It's finally dropping everywhere. Just to get to like how it all started. Like I mentioned, I lost my grandfather October of 2021, and I felt I was crushed, man. Like I didn't, you know. I was talking to somebody about it today. Actually, I just now really starting to feel like I'm kind of back to where I was prior to his death. But the month after that, the year really after that is such a blur for me to look back on. But I needed to grieve, and I knew that I needed to feel surrounded by like love. And obviously I had my family, you know, we grieved together through all of it, but I also needed to like just create, and I wanted to be around people that I knew had, you know, a lot of love for me. So I told some of my closest friends, some of my favorite artists from the city as well, some of my favorite producers. I was like, yo, I'm doing this writers camp for my next album, second week of November. If you can make it, like, these are the dates. This is the location. Like, if you can make it, pull up. And we had people come from New York. We had people come from Chicago. We had somebody come in from Houston, pulled up to get to work on the album. And then all of the homies that live in Detroit also present. And I think the most people we had in the room in those 5 days, because it was 5 days, we created the album in 5 days back in 2021. The demos, the demo versions, 2 years of sessions followed. But the demos were created in 5 days, and I think we had like 20 people in the room at one point. And it literally was just a party, like every night. Like, it looking back, and it's kind of funny that, like, you know, I'm over here, like, you know, it was to grieve and to be surrounded by people I love. But in many ways, like, you know, obviously still coming from the neighborhood, like, that was the coping mechanism at the time, was to, you know, be in one room with all my friends making music loud as fuck. Because, like, the building that we made it at, there's nobody around it, for real. There's like one house across the street, but they're not gonna hear much if we're really loud. And we partied and made music for like, and that's one 10 thing
about
straight.
And that's one thing about our culture is, you know, even in death, like, we celebrate it, you know. We celebrate the life, and you know, I mean, for me personally, I feel like, you know, we go to a spiritual world where we still, you know, we taking care of things down here, they taking care of things up there. I feel like our loved ones still live through us, you know. Every day. The music, the inspiration, all the things that he's taught you, the lessons, all that still exists, you know. And you know, and their presence is here. I'm sure there's times where you feel his presence, you know, whether it's in the music or, you know, just on your day-to-day endeavors, you know.
He's always, definitely, I know he's always here with me. And that was the cool thing too. A lot of the people in the room, you know, had a lot of, you know, admiration for my grandfather. So being able to like step outside every now and then to just like have conversations, like sidebar conversations when creating with people that are like, you know, either OGs to me or just like big brother figures too. That was definitely the coping part, the best, or the grieving and learning, you know, how to like work through this grief. So I'm super grateful for that whole week. Like I said, it was 5 days, and, you know, these are like 10-12 hour sessions that we just back to back, and you know, like the conversations, creating, recording, being hyped that like we just made this and it already sounds like, you know, some shit that nobody's. Who does your beats? So that session, that writers camp, we had all the producers in the room. My boy, my brother Thibaut Roland, he's my executive producer for everything. So anything that has ever been released by me and over the last 3 years has been touched by Thibaut, and he takes the majority of the producing role.
Okay.
But Thibaut was in the room, the homie Jay Cribbs, with the homie Brian, also is another producer from the neighborhood. He's super talented. And we had the homie Judson Branham was in the room producing as well. I want to make sure that I remember everybody. And then the homie Richard, who flew in from Houston, because he had just moved out to Houston at the time too. Those were the main producers during the writers camp. And then a lot of songwriters were the homies also. So like extremely grateful for Kemba, who's like a big brother to me from the Bronx, for the homie Luss, who's also like an OG, a big brother figure in my life as well. Rebel Diaz, which is a duo of brothers they grew up in Chicago and in New York, but they're really from Chile as well. That's a family connection, but also like a connection here, the U.S. They were also present at different moments too, because we started in Detroit, but then we did have to take a trip to two other cities to finish the album. We took a trip to New York to finish for 1 week, and then we took a trip to Grand Rapids for the weekend to finish also. And that's Grand Rapids is, you know, shout out to my boy Gordo for holding it down throughout the whole 2 years. This whole time he's just been the one person, I mean, everybody in my ear about the music and getting it together. And
there's a lot of Latinos in Grand Rapids, man.
Yeah, heavy population of Latinos in Grand Rapids. And I was not super aware to it until Gordo and I became like super close. That's my right hand for real. That's my dog. I'm trying to remember. I want to make sure I remember everybody in the room. But yeah, a lot of people came through that week.
That's good.
The homie Rico Waves was also there too. Helped out with one of the tracks on the album as well.
That's my guy, man.
Yeah, Rico's cool people. I'm sick if I'm forgetting names, but a lot of people worked on this album, and it shows. It translates in the music, man. Because this shit, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't heard anything like it.
That's dope.
And that it really has. I haven't heard anything like it, but also it seems like such an advanced version of what the sound that we tried to create on Wish You Well, which I'm grateful for, because it's like I knew exactly what we were trying to get to with Wish You Well, and T1 and I did that whole project together, because also like I play throughout the whole thing. Like there are songs that I did drums on, there's songs that I've done all the instruments on, but Wish You Well was just me and Tebow in the room. You know, we had like few producers just help out with small little mixing notes and things like that, but Tebow and I put together Wish You Well together over a summer. But with this project, it's like having this team of extremely talented individuals like kind of just coming together to put one project together. It's like we were able to just take a huge leap. Like, yo, Wish You Well was crazy, and like we did our thing with that, but like this project,
you got a team of people who have your best interests at heart. They're bringing their creativity. They know what, because also like these are people that, and they believe in you and your talent. They believe in the music that we released, and they understand what we were going for also. So it's like these people they're not getting into this room and like writing songs as if it was them. They're writing songs as if they were, how can I hear Gabe sing this song, or what can I hear Gabe saying over this? And then like that's exactly how the songwriting process goes. Do you do features?
Yeah.
Do you?
Myself?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I'll do features. I'm super I'm really particular about them. I'm not gonna lie, but that's also just because I don't want to just oversaturate myself and just hop on every other song. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be moments where like I'll do more features than I have done thus far in the journey, but I'm way more likely to hop on a feature if I'm super drawn to the sound, So the features.
If there was an artist that you could do a collab with, who would you want to collab with?
Right now, like locally or just in general?
Just in general, whoever.
Man, such a hard question. I'm not gonna lie. If I could collaborate with anybody right now, I don't know if I could say, if I want to say just like one artist, I would love to make music out in France, Spain, or in London. So like different reasons. Like London, the grime scene in London and UK overall is crazy, and like that UK drill grime, those instrumentals are sick. Like I listen to that probably a lot more than anything else. That's probably my favorite genre. Damasio
said he had a good time out there.
Man. Out in Europe. In
Europe, and he said they're getting ready to go back for another tour. They're going this fall, I said, man, that is so dope. And then taking your talent, your music out there and promoting it and exploiting it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really dope, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to the culture creators, man. Them boys be doing their thing over there, man. They're got much love.
A good program with that. That's super dope.
Shout out to Reyes and DJ EJ.
Yeah, EJ's the homie for real.
Yeah. That's he done grew. Shit, I met him. He was just making jerseys, doing his thing. Now this guy's a DJ and he's got all kinds of shit going on. Shit, I seen him DJing in front of the Eiffel Tower. I'm like,
that video was sick. Yeah, with his he has that camera that like goes on the stick and you can like see everything.
I was like, man. Yeah. So let's talk about Southwest Fest. It's coming up, bro.
Yeah. Southwest. Damn. Let's see. It's the 31st, so we're 20 days away now. 20 days away from the third edition of Southwest Fest.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time, man.
I love it, bro. I've been to the last
45 artists. Yeah, 45 artists this year.
Damn.
I think like 110 vendors. Shout out to Idalis on the vending team. Shout out to the whole team as a whole. My boy Tone, Rebecca. Niaja, my mother also plays a huge role in helping us put together the festival. Shout out to everybody, Natalie, Vidi Diana. Mad people come together to put this event together for the neighborhood, and thankfully, because of the last 2 years, I think people really get it now.
Man,
people really understand it. People,
it was some of the dopest events I've ever been to.
It's grown to be something truly, iconic and special, and I'm glad, I'm grateful that it's become that. Because it all started with the void, right? It all started with the lack of that. You know, there's always
community and unity.
Community, but also just like, you know, something that is just strictly for community. You know, like there's no like there's no ticket, man. Like there's no like I don't need to make bread off of this. I don't need to. It's more it's
rewarding just to see. It's
rewarding to
see
everybody there and to see that this is needed. It's rewarding to see.
That's dope, bro.
Yeah,
that's
it's rewarding
dope.
to see that.
You gotta
like,
have a certain kind of heart to do shit like that.
It's way more rewarding to know that like there's people being influenced directly by something, or sorry, right in front of your eyes, right? Like you know, all these kids that are coming to Southwest Fest and seeing people from the neighborhood that look like them.
And people are always trying to capitalize on how they can profit from it.
Yeah, and like I get it, because like that's
Some
you know that's
things
the world we live in. That's
priceless,
the world we live in.
you
Like
know.
people got bills, man. Like, and I can't. I don't want to knock that.
No, hell no, shit.
Like,
we all need some money.
Yeah, like everybody's got to make bread. It's just I think that we don't need to put a ticket on an event that is for the community, because if we really want to make bread off of it, this shit will grow to the point where we can make sure that we're sourcing the money from people that can afford it in order to put it on for free, and then we can still pay ourselves. We can break off bread. But I personally don't feel like I need to charge you $10 for you to come and witness the culture that you live around every day.
That's right.
You feel me?
That's right.
Like I don't
need it. And all the vendors are from the community. All the performers
everybody.
are from the community.
Yeah.
I love it, bro.
Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely
dope. And just, just the variety of vendors that you had. Shout out to Natalie Rivera. Yeah. She's a dope artist. Juliana San Roman. Yeah. She's an out-code artist.
They both put the festival together too.
Man, bro, I love their artwork, their creativity, just the talent, people. The artists. I mean, just everybody's hustle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It doesn't matter, what you out there vendoring, selling. Like, I just think it's dope. You know what I'm saying? It was a dope experience. Every time I went there, it's been slapping. It's been packed inside, outside, both sides. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not gonna lie. Day of the festival and that's why I'm like super grateful that this year, trying to take a step back from even performing myself at the festival, because running around is crazy the day of, man. And there's only been a few moments where like I've been able to just like plant both feet and just like look around and truly like bring in what's coming in. Because like I'll be honest, like the reason why I know the festival's a success and like why it's grown to be what it is now in its third year is because I hear so many people talk about it afterwards, right? It's really, like I said, it's really hard day of to really like take all of that in, to like I said, just plant my feet, look around and be like, damn, there's 3,000, 2,500 people here throughout the day. There's mad people here. Is
Baby Bell performing too?
This year? No, not this year. She performed last year. Yeah, she performed last year. Yeah.
She killed it too.
Yeah. Very interesting performance. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But the festival has grown to be something that, it shows it's an organic growth. Really, right? So we're really grateful as a team for it.
I love it. I love being a part of it.
Very excited to see where it goes.
I understand, because I just had the El Nino Podcast Summer Bash at the DHDC, and bro, I didn't get to enjoy none of the festivities. I didn't eat no food. I didn't have no drinks. I didn't buy shit from none of the vendors, because I'm so busy hosting and running around and making sure everybody's got what they need and they're good. And I'm jumping in the dunk tank.
We had a
and
meeting
I'm hosting
last week.
all the performers.
We need to make sure we eat this year.
And I'm like, damn, I didn't get we had the hibachi truck there, elephant ear truck. We had Mia's birria tacos. We had Mexerico Cocina, and I'm like, I didn't get a taco, nothing this whole time here. I even shout out to Sun Secret, man. They're one of my favorite vendors because they got all the croc charms and shit I love for my little crocs. But I'm like, damn, I specifically wanted them here so I can go buy some croc charms for me and my grandson. And I didn't even have time to go do that. I know, man. That was terrible.
I feel you. Shout out EJ's mom, because that's the one place I get to eat every day, every year at the festival. And it's always because like she's normally right next to the Coney stage, so like I'll run back there to make sure that everything's okay at that stage. And like she can see it, because she just hands me a plate with like a taco.
And because you're on the last year when I see, I'm like, what up, bro? And you're just
it's always just like and like I feel bad for that too, because like it's like I know a lot of people want to have a conversation with me and like talk to me, especially the day of the festival. But it's like I gotta go.
You're the organizer.
I'm trying to make sure that everything for the sound is going down well, and that's that's not just me. It's like I said at Dallas with the vendors, like she doesn't stop Like we look at our steps at the end of the day of the festival, like over here, like 40,000 steps, 45,000 steps day of, because it's just nonstop from like 6 in the morning to 4 in the morning when the after party is done. At the end of the day, like we gotta celebrate too ourselves. But
so I was very inspired by the by your events that you throw, and I was like, damn, it's dope. And I've kind of collaborated into my own events. I had my first year El Nino podcast reunion where I invited, the whole community, but, also everybody that had been on my podcast. And, it was really dope, really good turnout. I gave out, little trophies, awards, things like that.
That's dope.
And, but I'm like, man, my birthday, like every time I celebrate something, it's always in the winter. It's always in December. Okay. And I'm like, man, I want to do something in the summer. Like I want to have some summer fun too. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to throw a summer bash, And, it was really dope. And more so than anything, like I love what you do for the community and how you bring, all the people together. But I wanted to be able to do that with my generation. Yeah. And the mission was executed, bro. Like I was able to bring all of my generation of people. I'm talking about everybody from, different parts of the neighborhood, different gangs, everything. And everybody was there for one purpose, and that was just to celebrate life, celebrate community. I made sure it was family friendly, so there was no excuses that people couldn't come because they got kids. Yeah. We got face painting. We got bouncy houses.
Like tank. I heard about the dunk tank. Right?
The dunk tank was like one of the dopest features. You know what I'm saying? We had the Hood Celebrity Dunk Tank, so we had a lot of people who came in and volunteered their time. Camila Cantu was supposed to come through, and Flaco Suave. And I've been wanting to get her and what's her name? I think Raquel Soledad. Yep. I don't know them, but I've been keeping up with them. I see, what they're doing. Camila Cantu been doing her thing.
Camila's killing it. Yeah,
she is. I was just like, she just did something with some mariachis out in California or something. I think
she was on a tour recently too.
Yes, and I think that is really amazing. Cool every time I look on
choreography down point, man.
Yeah, every time I look on my Instagram, bro, she's like going in, and I hope maybe one day I can get them on here to share their story, because that's what I love too, is seeing so many females from our community, being so creative and just so talented and just,
there's so many talented women
doing their thing. I love it.
And like you're saying, touching on like artists, visual artists from the neighborhood doing their thing. And then like we have our performing artists also. I think women across the board are just having a really good run right now.
Yeah, hell yeah, they deserve it. They deserve it.
We have to support that to the fullest.
Support it to the fullest, absolutely, man. Well, listen, man, let them know where they can find your music. Yeah. Make sure you promote the Southwest Fest, where it's at, the dates, the times, all that good stuff.
You can find me at Gabriel X Duran across all platforms. For the music, just Gabriel Duran in search bar. And you can see us August 5th at El Club for the release party this Saturday, and August 19th for the 3rd edition of Southwest Fest. Yeah.
Man, I cannot wait, bro. I am super excited about it. Big shout out to my man Eddie Martell, hashtag Mr. Not Guilty at Martell Law Firm. Shout out to Danny Reyna and the DNR Construction Company, and big shout out to LA Landscape, man. I appreciate all you guys and all my people who've been donating, sponsoring, showing love, showing support, sharing, subscribing, coming to the events, all that. Thank you. I appreciate you. That's how I'm going to get there. Love having guests like, Gabriel Duran, somebody who's positive, who is progressive, and who is making a huge impact in our community to make sure that we're headed in a positive direction, man. You the man, bro. You definitely really inspired me, man.
It, man. For real. Thank you for having
me. I look forward to, working with you in the future and, just being a part of things,
Glad to be here for the first time.
No doubt, man.
It was dope.
I'll see you guys next Monday. Much love. Always keep an awesome guest. You guys take it easy. Be safe. Love y'all.